The world runs on a complex global supply chain that moves everything, from food and medicine to electronics, across continents every single day. But in recent years, cracks have started to appear. Shipping delays, factory shutdowns, geopolitical tensions, and over-reliance on a few key regions have exposed how fragile this system really is. If one major link breaks, the ripple effects could disrupt economies worldwide. In this video, we'll explore the global supply chain problem that many experts warn could trigger the next major crisis, and why it matters more than ever today. Today, we will talk about the global supply chain problem that could trigger the next crisis. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Understanding the global supply chain system. The global supply chain is the complex network that connects manufacturers, suppliers, transport systems, warehouses, and retailers across the world. It allows raw materials, components, and finished goods to move efficiently from one country to another. For example, a smartphone might be designed in the United States, use semiconductors manufactured in Taiwan, rare earth materials from Africa, and be assembled in China before being sold worldwide. This interconnected system has made globalization possible by lowering costs, improving efficiency, and increasing production capacity. However, this high level of integration also means that disruptions in one region can affect the entire system. Because modern economies rely heavily on international trade and just-in-time production, even small interruptions can quickly escalate into major economic problems. Researchers warn that the interconnected nature of supply networks can cause failures to spread across multiple industries, creating systemic risk across the global economy. 2. The rise of fragile and over-optimized supply chains. Over the past few decades, companies have focused on efficiency and cost reduction when designing supply chains. Businesses shifted production to countries with cheaper labor, centralized manufacturing in specific regions, and reduced inventory through just-in-time systems. While these strategies significantly lowered production costs, they also created fragile systems with limited redundancy. Instead of maintaining backup suppliers or larger inventories, companies often depend on a single region or supplier for critical materials. When something disrupts that location, such as a natural disaster, political conflict, or pandemic, the entire chain can break down. Reports show that disruptions to global supply chains are increasing rapidly, with alerts about supply risks rising by around 33% in 2025 compared to the previous year. This increasing vulnerability suggests that the system designed for maximum efficiency may now be too fragile to handle modern global shocks. 3. Geopolitical conflicts and trade tensions. One of the biggest threats to global supply chains is geopolitical instability. Conflicts between nations can disrupt shipping routes, limit access to resources, and create trade restrictions. In recent years, tensions such as the Russia-Ukraine war, US-China trade disputes, and conflicts in the Middle East have shown how quickly political events can disrupt global trade networks. Sanctions, tariffs, and export controls often block the flow of essential materials and components, forcing companies to find alternative suppliers at higher costs. In addition, strategic regions such as Taiwan play a critical role in producing semiconductors, which are essential for electronics, automobiles, and artificial intelligence systems. Any major conflict involving these regions could cause severe disruptions across multiple industries worldwide. Experts warn that geopolitical instability is now one of the most significant risks facing global supply chains, affecting sectors such as electronics, chemicals, aerospace, and agriculture. 4. Critical trade routes and global logistics bottlenecks. The global supply chain relies heavily on a few major shipping routes and infrastructure hubs. Key locations such as the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, and the Strait of Hormuz handle enormous volumes of international trade. When these choke points experience disruptions, the consequences spread worldwide. For example, around 30% of global container trade passes through the Suez Canal. meaning that disruptions in the region can significantly delay shipments and increase shipping costs. Shipping routes can add thousands of miles to journeys and increase transportation times by nearly 30%. This effectively reduces global shipping capacity and increases freight costs. As a result, industries that depend on timely deliveries, such as automotive manufacturing and electronics production, can face production shutdowns due to missing components. 5. Climate change and natural disasters. Another growing threat to global supply chains is climate change. Extreme weather events such as hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and droughts are becoming more frequent and severe. These disasters can damage infrastructure, close ports, destroy factories, and interrupt transportation networks. For example, severe floods in Europe and other regions have already caused major delays in logistics and manufacturing operations. Climate change also affects agricultural supply chains by reducing crop yields and disrupting fertilizer production. In addition, droughts can restrict the operation of critical canals such as the Panama Canal, where water levels determine how many ships can pass through each day. As climate-related disasters become more common, the risk of sudden supply disruptions will likely increase, threatening food security, industrial production, and global economic stability. 6. Real-world supply chain disruptions and their consequences. Recent events have demonstrated how quickly supply chain disruptions can escalate into global crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed the fragility of international supply networks when factories shut down, transportation slowed, and consumer demand suddenly changed. Shortages of semiconductors, medical equipment, and shipping containers caused widespread production delays and economic losses. In addition, geopolitical conflicts can further intensify supply chain challenges. For instance, disruptions in major shipping routes and energy markets can halt shipments of essential goods, including pharmaceuticals, electronics, and fertilizers, creating price spikes and shortages worldwide. 7. Economic ripple effects and the risk of a global crisis. When supply chains break down, the effects ripple across the global economy. Manufacturing slows because factories cannot obtain necessary components, retailers face shortages of products, and consumers experience rising prices. These disruptions contribute to inflation, economic uncertainty, and reduced economic growth. Shipping crises, for example, can significantly increase freight costs, which are often passed on to consumers through higher prices. In some cases, supply disruptions can also lead to food shortages or energy price spikes, putting additional pressure on economies. The combination of supply shortages, rising costs, and production delays can create economic instability that spreads across countries and industries. Economists warn that prolonged supply chain disruptions could trigger a major global recession or financial crisis if governments and businesses fail to address these vulnerabilities. 8. Building resilient supply chains for the future. To prevent a future crisis, governments and companies are increasingly focusing on making supply chains more resilient. One key strategy is diversification, reducing dependence on a single supplier or region by sourcing materials from multiple locations. Companies are also investing in digital technologies, predictive analytics, and real-time monitoring systems to detect disruptions early and respond quickly. Some nations are encouraging domestic manufacturing of critical goods, such as semiconductors, medical supplies, and energy resources to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.